The saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it's about time when something's broke that you try and fix it. This is today's Arsenal Raw Reaction Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal news or Raw Reaction Show, I guess, today, of course, with it being the day after the night before. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. It's a brand new week. It's Monday. More football to come. 2 more games, of course. Arsenal with 2 big away trips, travelling up to Stoke on Wednesday to play Port Vale and then travelling, of course, to Newcastle on Sunday to face the Magpies in a very important game. But we've got to talk about yesterday's fixture beyond anything else. Arsenal, of course, taking on Manchester City at the Emirates Stadium in a game where there was high expectations, and what was delivered, of course, was somewhat underwhelming. And in the end, we're very grateful for a very late goal to spare our blushes from defeat at home and continue that unbeaten run against City now to 6 games, including, of course, that Community Shield win from a few years ago as well. So it's all well and good, you know, talking about the positives of the season as we have done, the brilliance of the goals that we have scored and the rigidity at the back. But when things go wrong, you need to talk about them and we need to discuss the reasons as to why as well. Good morning to you all joining us, and thank you so much for listening as usual. Temi, Jamil, Shari, Mark, good morning to you. To Gary, to Southport Gooner. Good morning to Maximius and Brian. Just saying, we've got Sid, we've got Paul, we've got Colin in the chat, we've got Martin and Amber Lee and Tom, we've got Natty as well. Thank you to you all, as always, for joining me. If you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Let's jump into things, shall we? A game of 2 halves. And certainly how I feel is that Arsenal effectively, I think wasted 45 minutes of the game in this game for me. And the changes that were made at half time, I think, were very telling. And while Arteta might not admit in his post-match press conference as much that these changes that were made at halftime were indicative of a mistake from the start of the game, that's certainly how I feel that they were. I personally feel that there was an indication that there was indeed an error in the selection at the beginning of the match. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Arteta's responses to some of the questions as well a little bit later on. And we might even get some of your thoughts as well, of course, too. So let's have a look, shall we, at that lineup, which, of course, was, I think, a little bit surprising in some areas. I think the midfield wasn't surprising. It was disappointing, but I don't think it was surprising. I certainly wouldn't label it as such. The selection of Trossard on the left, I thought, was somewhat surprising. I thought we might see Martinelli on the left-hand side from this game, based upon, of course, the game that he played in midweek against Athletic Club and was so impactful from the bench, of course, which, again, he was in this second game. But Trossard's selection, I thought, I didn't particularly like the performance from Trossard. I think it was only like a game of 6 out of 10, I think, for the game. It did some things okay, but overall was somewhat impactful. Lacking in impact, certainly. But overall, you know, I think that the decisions that we had was limited by the absence of Odegaard and then the injury to Noni Madueke in the first half, which led him to being substituted at half-time. I saw some fans kind of complaining that Madueke was taken off at half-time when he was injured and, of course, couldn't carry on. He was limping through the mix zone after the game as well. But overall, I think the lineup is probably the biggest root cause as to why Arsenal didn't win this game. And the lack of, I don't know what you want to call it, bravery, initiative, or what. I just found it very, very frustrating and entirely unsurprising, of course, to see that midfield selected for what is the third game out of 4 matches, other than that game against Nottingham Forest, of course, where we didn't start that and unsurprisingly won that game at a canter in the end as well. Now, we made some sloppy mistakes. Sadly for the goal, Gabriel was caught quite far up the field. I somehow saw people blaming Saliba for this goal. I don't quite understand how. But Gabriel was sadly at fault, caught far too up the pitch. You kind of, I think, got caught up in a little bit of the emotion of the game. And there was moments where kind of Gabriel was, in the first 10 to 15 minutes, he was whipping up the crowd and really trying to build up the energy. And I think that kind of overwhelmed Gabby in a little way, because he ended up pushing quite far up the pitch when already Calafiori was quite high up the pitch. And it meant that left-hand side of Arsenal's just became entirely absent. So that when City were able to quickly squeeze the ball out from kind of this tight scenario, it found its way, of course, to Reinders, who then had a free pass, basically, to Gabriel. Saliba is caught in this situation where he can't move over to cover the run of Haaland, because he has to be jockeying. He has to jockey the run from Reinders. So I think, unfortunately, Gabriel, in this moment, allowed the occasion to somewhat overwhelm him and moved out of position and allowed. And it's unfortunate that it's a mistake, but obviously it requires some fortune on City's part for the ball to kind of squeeze itself out of that little kind of situation for that then to cause a turnover. And I don't think Arsenal were expecting a turnover in that position. If anything, it was something different. And this was one of just 3 chances really that City had in the game. The other 2 chances, of course, came from that Mikel Merino mistake where he gave the ball away and it led to an opportunity that Raya saved well. And then there was that one, of course, with Arsenal pushing desperately for a goal that allowed Haaland in again in the second half, and Raya made another good save. But it was obviously a very defensive performance overall from City. And in many ways, they are entitled to that once they've taken the lead. In a game like this, where the margins are so fine, I haven't got really any complaints about how City played the game. Yes, there are ironies about the comments made by some of their players about how Arsenal approach games in previous fixtures, but I don't have any complaints. I don't think City came here to draw the game at all. They took the lead in the first 15 minutes of the match and then, of course, had that lead and had that to hold on to. And knowing, of course, what Arsenal would create and what Arsenal would do going forwards, they were happy to kind of sit in from that point. And yes, there's an irony. And I've always criticised Rodri and Bernardo Silva and others for their comments about how Arsenal approach games. I agree with Arteta in the sense that it wasn't really a flip of the game last season because of Arsenal having 10 men for 54 minutes of the game. But when you've got, City had already played a game just 3 days prior. They didn't have a deep squad like Arsenal had. They were fatigued from that game. And when they took the lead, they didn't have the necessity at that point to go for the second goal, because they knew that there would be opportunities on the break. And there were opportunities on the break for them. Of course, those 2 more, which arguably they should have probably scored from as well. But they didn't. And that opened up the chance for Arsenal to play onwards and go for their equaliser, which they eventually got, which we'll talk about later. But Madueke, of course, came off at half-time because of an injury. He was limping through the mix zone at half-time. Hopefully, it's not too bad, whatever the issue is. But apparently, it happened early on in the first half, and he managed to play through until half-time. Of course, with Saka on the bench, they couldn't really expect Saka to play for the majority of the game. So Madueke managed to soldier through until half-time. And I thought still had a very good half indeed. The shot that he had on goal with his right foot, I think it was, really did test Donnarumma. And I think that he created some really good opportunities. What frustrates me, I think, about the moment with Madueke is that I think he's not getting the end product from others. He's producing some really good cutbacks and moments where we should be getting on the end of some of these chances. Like the balls that he was playing with the cutbacks to the byline and City would clear without too much challenge. That's where I want to see Gyökeres running into those kind of spaces. That's where I want to see an attacking 10 that we didn't have on the field running in. And I was saying at half time that I just felt as though that we were just lacking that extra attacking player in the box who could arrive on the end of those chances, as Eze nearly did, of course, in Bilbao to a degree also. But we lacked that extra figure in attack. And sadly, that meant that Arsenal lacked an extra element. And of course, the second half is where the changes happened. The second half is when both Saka and Eze entered the field, and we went with the lineup really and the structure that we should have done from minute 0, and we didn't. And Arsenal pushed and pushed and pushed and didn't still necessarily create all that much. Now, City are a very good team. I think sometimes Arsenal fans can be guilty of just focusing too much in on Arsenal and completely ignoring the opposition they're up against. City are a very good side and obviously create chances through the counters that they have, but also they defend very well. They've got a lot of very good players. They've got so many. Rodri had a good game. Reinders had a good game, of course, as well. I thought the back line had a good game. I thought O'Reilly had a good game, although he arguably probably should have been booked. Gvardiol and when Ake came on, he obviously had a good game as well, helping out defensively. But Arsenal failed to create all that much in the game. And with all of the possession and dominance that they had, that was obviously very disappointing. And we'll come on to talk about some of the other individuals in just a second. But besides kind of some snapshots from outside the box, Eze had that volley that was saved by Donnarumma. Zubimendi had that shot from the edge that kind of just went over. The corners that we had didn't really create too much danger. But the goal that itself comes in added time. And it's unsurprising, perhaps, that it's a long ball over the top. But you can't take anything away from the finish from Martinelli. What a run. What a pass. What a finish. What a goal. And, sometimes you've got to turn around and say, fair play. And I think a lot of people maybe owe Martinelli something of an apology, to be fair. I think myself included, around some of the comments that have been made about his ability, what he's doing, his end product. And, the criticisms are fair. It doesn't erase what has happened in the last 2 seasons. Not at all. It does not erase what has happened in those last 2 seasons whatsoever. But you absolutely have to give credit where credit is due. And in these last 2 games, Martinelli has, of course, taken advantage of 2 situations very, very well. And he is, I expect, will probably start in midweek against Port Vale, and we'll try and build up that confidence further and utilise that to a greater degree. But this is, for me, a really big positive for Arsenal. It's a really, really big positive for Arsenal that Martinelli has, in some ways, returned to some form that we have desperately needed. And I think those people that have spoken disparagingly about Martinelli are the ones that owe him an apology, certainly, but not those that have been, objective and critical about him to the degree that indeed that he deserved it. I'm talking about those people that take things, of course, too far, as many, many sadly do these days, and feel with a lack of conscience that it's okay to say certain things. But it is good, again, to see this confidence in him. He is a confidence player. He is a player, of course, that does feed off of these moments. And I hope, again, that this is another goal that should, and unfortunately that's on Arteta that it didn't in the last game, allow him to continue and get more time on the field. But, of course, it kind of comes back to this point about Eze, whose pass it was, of course, that found Martinelli. Eze should have started in this game. We all know that. We all had that down. It was a very tiny percentage of people would have wanted to see the midfield that started this game start this game. You know it. I know it. We all know it. So why did Arteta do it? That's the question we have to ask. Why did Arteta start this midfield 3? Now, I've got a few theories as to why Arteta started this midfield three. One of the reasons why I think Arteta started this midfield three is the start to the season that we've got. The fixtures that Arsenal have been handed out by the computer, of course, at the beginning of the campaign. And going to Old Trafford, going to Anfield, going to Bilbao, going to and having Manchester City face us, and then going to Newcastle, of course. I think that the reason why he's gone with this team is to do with the fact that with all these new players in at the start of this new season, I think he would have liked to have and preferred to have a start to the campaign that would allow Arsenal to build and grow and generate those partnerships and build those relationships with one another and have games like we have had in previous seasons. But of course, the fixture schedule has not allowed Arsenal to do that. And as a result, I think Arteta has chosen more combative sides at the beginning of this campaign with an idea of rather not wanting to lose key fixtures like at Anfield, like this game, like to a degree at Old Trafford to some extent. The absence of Odegaard obviously plays a big role in this as well. And Odegaard is obviously a very good transitional player and a good press-resistant player, of course, and that's why Arteta appreciates that. Eze is not that type of 10. Eze is not that type of player. Eze is the type of 10 who thrives in fixtures of dominance. Now, when Eze entered the play, Arsenal had that dominance. Arsenal had that ability on the ball to be more in control of the game. Whereas, of course, in those first 20 minutes, it was a bit more frenetic. But Arsenal, of course, were caught out on that break and considered from that. So the game suited Eze at that point when he came on. But for me, none of that and that explanation as to what I'm trying to get behind Arteta's thinking, none of that justifies the selection for me. None of that justifies the choices that were made at the beginning of the game. None of them. He had to go with Eze. He had to go, for me, with Martinelli on the left. And his lineup was too conservative. It was the safe option. It was not a selection of a side, of a team, in a moment that they look at this season and go, this is Arsenal's season. This is the season where Arsenal need to take the handbrake off. And Dragan, you might want to go and listen again to what I said, because I didn't say he's not a transitional player. This was a safe 11 in which we look more dominantly at winning games at a canter, at making statements. And this is not the start to a season that highlights that at all. What we've seen so far with the selections and games at Liverpool and this game and Bilbao as well, even though we won that game courtesy again of the changes, and we'll come on to Arteta's press conferences with his answers also in a minute, is quite simply that we are not matching what we expect and what we should be seeing as well, I think, to a degree at this point. We're not seeing that. There is too much safety. There is too much want of control. I think to win a title, you have to take some risks. And Arsenal are not a risk-taking side. Arteta is a risk-averse manager in these types of games. And it's all well and good seeing some things in the second half and the changes at halftime and the changes of Winery and the change of Martinelli as well for Timber. They weren't very Arteta-style changes, to be fair to him, and they did show some level of growth. But it was all too late for me. It was all too late in the day for those changes to happen, and those changes to the lineup should have happened at the beginning of the game. For me, I look at these fixtures and I think that they will be looked at the end of the season as either the make or the break of the campaign. It might not matter that Arsenal ended up dropping points to Liverpool and Man City, because for me, the reason why Arsenal have not won the title in the last two seasons in particular, from a match perspective, taking out the idea of transfers and injuries and all of that, is because we've dropped too many points in games that we should have won, games against teams that we should have beat. We have not beaten enough of those sides consistently enough It hasn't been the results against Liverpool and City as to why, for me, Arsenal haven't won these leagues. It's because of those games that Arsenal should have won and they didn't. Now, I think Arsenal have got a squad now where there can be really no excuses when it comes to those types of games. We shouldn't be losing to West Ham at home. We shouldn't be losing to Villa at home. We shouldn't be dropping points. We shouldn't be dropping more than 20 points from winning positions in a season. So far, Arsenal have dropped 0 points from winning positions so far this season. But the idea that Arsenal, of course, have also managed to pick up 0 points from losing positions is equally as much of a concern so far. As much of a concern for me is the Gyökeres element. Is the Gyökeres element. This is such a significant issue for me. The Gyökeres side of things, and I have no doubt in my mind that if Kai Havertz was fit, was that he would have been in this game. Havertz would have started this game. There's no doubt in my mind if Havertz was fit that he would start this game. Now, I don't want to do the whole "I told you so" thing. You know, at the beginning, and Šeško is by far not having a very good start to the season at all with Man United. I think that's more about Man United than him, but that's a different conversation. And I don't want to go down the whole, this is what I was saying, these are the concerns I had, blah, 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 blah. That's not good listening. However, what we need to work out here is this a Gyökeres problem or is this an Arsenal problem? Now, I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's more so Arsenal than it is Gyökeres at the moment. But that record needs to change. 0 shots against Man United, 0 shots against Liverpool, 0 shots against Manchester City. That is not good enough. And the primary reason yesterday why I had the concern was that it took until the 70th minute, for Arsenal to play a through-driven pass in behind to Gyökeres. The 70th minute. That was the first time Arsenal played a low-driven pass in behind City's defence for Gyökeres to run onto. And from that moment, we earned a corner and we earned a moment to create a chance. The 70th minute. Gyökeres is not a Kai Havertz style centre forward where Kai drops in. It's no surprise that during these years of dominance in games against City, where we've beat them at home comfortably, where we've played against Liverpool more combatively, where we've got this excellent record against the big six teams, that Havertz, of course, has been our centre forward because he is the more type of centre forward for these type of games where he drops in. The wing has become a lot more dangerous. He's a lot more collaborative. But when you're playing with a spearhead type number 9, and when you're playing with this specific type of centre forward, you absolutely have to create the type of chances that they feed from. You have to try and create those types of chances. And it's not all on everybody else. Gyökeres also needs to be better. His runs need to be better. His movement needs to be better. His first touch needs to be better. All of these things. But these games at the start of this season, I don't think is where you're going to see the best of him. And it's no surprise either that the games against Leeds and the games against Forest, that he looked a lot better. His best game of the season also, I thought, was actually against Athletic Club. I thought he was really good in that game. His runs, the passes that we made in that game, he looked a lot more threatening. He could have had a couple of goals. The diving header that he had, the one-on-one that he had, the header in the second half that he had. Gyökeres easily could have had a goal or two against Athletic Club. No problem at all. And it's no surprise that he's got 3 goals in 2 games against Leeds and Nottingham Forest at the Emirates. But I think it's equally unsurprising that he's got 0 shots against Man United, Liverpool and Man City. Gyökeres didn't come in for these games, I don't think. He's not Erling Haaland. He's not Harry Kane. He's not a player on that level. He's not a striker on that level. There were no strikers on the market for me at this point available of that level on the market. And so if you're going to go and get a centre forward, and it was important that we did go and get a centre forward, that we brought in a centre forward that at the same point leveled up what we have. Now, we did level up what we have, but it wasn't because we replaced Havertz. That wasn't what the signing of Gyökeres was about. The signing of Gyökeres was adding to what we had with Havertz already there. And so against teams like Leeds and against teams like Forest, Gyökeres is going to be really valuable for Arsenal, where we're dominating the game, we're creating a lot of high-value chances, we're getting the ball into the box, we're a lot more dangerous and threatening, and we miss time after time after time in previous seasons. He is there to finish off those chances. But when we come up against other sides where we're not creating as many high-value chances, we're struggling to get the ball into the box in those moments, and we need the centre forward to drop in, join the build-up, allow those wide players to get into more threatening areas. They're the games where Havertz will be more valuable for us. They're the games where he would have been critical. So for those asking, well, why did we sign him then? It's because you have a collaboration between the two. You have different types of profiles. You have different keys to unlock different doors. It is really as simple as that. And I think that it's unfortunate for Gyökeres that we've, again, had these first 5 games at the start of this season, because I don't think it's allowed him to show the best of what he is able to achieve. And I think that Arsenal are going to see a lot more from Gyökeres in the games that we have to come, in those games moving forwards against, your Burnleys and your West Hams and your Brightons and your Brentfords and, the newly promoted sides and these teams that are currently struggling, your Wolves, etc. These are the type of games, I think, where we'll see a lot more from Gyökeres. And then in turn, he may build up that confidence so that when we come up against those tougher sides, he then will have more confidence. He will have bedded into the Arsenal system. He'll learn the runs that he needs to make a lot more. I think Thierry Henry did that analysis of him, of course, where he was kind of talking about the runs that he was making. And I think of that famous Thierry Henry quote where he talked about Arsene Wenger effectively talking about Gyökeres as a guy that needed to think about the runs that he needed to make. Could I put myself into the best position for Pires and Ljungberg and Bergkamp, etc.? And I think also Gyökeres needs to do that. But that's just what happened in the summer. Now, for me, and this is why I talked about Hugo Ekitike in the summer, Hugo Ekitike, there is an irony there about a player who potentially could have been Arsenal's number 9, that could have maybe been more stylistically suited, let's say, to that system. But that's in the dust. There's no point lingering on what's been. We need to look at what we've got. And for me, Gyökeres at spearhead of Arsenal's team needs to be found, and Arsenal needs to do more to find him. It really is, for me, as simple as that. Now, I've not got a slide, so I'm just going to go to Mikel Arteta's press conference without a slide here, because there's a few things that I want to talk about from the press conference. John Cross asked Arteta, you made 2 changes at halftime. Was there an admission that there may be that team selection in the first instance wasn't quite right? He says, no, it's too easy to say that. I think it's very clear what we wanted to do. Very well that we started the game. I think we completely dominated. I think after they scored the goal, it was without doing absolutely nothing before that. We were a bit shaky for 5 or 7 minutes. And after that, we still got the grip of the game and started to dominate it. In the second half, it was a continuation of that with 1 different player and then 2 and 3 different players. Now, I think that's an oversimplification of what happened, saying it's a continuation of what we did with 1 different player. But the difference is that one different player being Eze over Merino. If it's a case of we carried on doing it. Well, if you're carrying on doing it, you don't bring them at half time. If you're confident in the players that you've got that started and ended that half, you carry on with those players, because that's what Arteta does. That's what Arsenal do. We don't make halftime changes. That's not the normality for us. And so if you felt like we were dominating and creating in the right way, then we wouldn't have made any changes at halftime besides the injury to Moni Madueke, which forced the change to Saka that early in the game, which I don't think would have happened until later on in the game. But the fact that it wasn't necessarily clicking, wasn't working, and Merino wasn't playing particularly well meant that he made that change with a different player. It's disingenuous, I think, what was said there. And further, what was disingenuous was obviously what the conversation that he had back and forth with Jordan Davis from The Sun. He says, could you talk us through your thinking behind the midfield 3 and what you thought they could do to start the match? And he said, no, we don't have time for that. There's a lot of things to do that. And then Jordan said, but just a very basic analysis of what you thought the midfield 3 could do instead of maybe with. And he said, because I say it was the best one to start the game. Nobody asked me about the midfield 3 in Bilbao. Nobody. And Jordan, to be fair to him, said, well, I guess it's a different game. And he said, that's right, but it's the same midfield. So why did you keep it? Jordan said, because I believe it was the best thing for the team. But while that's all fair and good, it's all well saying It was what I thought was the best team. I'm the manager. It's my choice. I picked the team, blah, blah, blah. All well and good. But you want to see some accountability. You want to see him take initiative. Now, I asked him after the press conference in Liverpool, I also asked him and said, do you think that you were too conservative with your selection? And he again said, it's too easy to say that. But I don't think it is too easy to say that, because we've got 3 examples. And the Bilbao game, for me, the Athletic Club game, is a great example, because no one asked him about the midfield in Bilbao, because A, we won the game. B, the attention and the story is around Martinelli and Trossard and those changes. That's what the story was. The story was those 2. We're not going to sit and waste questions asking about the midfield 3 in a game that we've won when the story is around those players. And I'd add to that as well that when critical questions have come in games that we've won, Arteta doesn't tend to respond too well to those types of questions. But he's kind of laid something of a precedent here that in future matches, say we start this midfield 3 and we have to make a change to go and win the game, that will be something that now sticks in people's minds now, because the changes had to be made in Bilbao for Arsenal to win that game. We had to change the structure. Eze came off, Martinelli came on, Trossard came on, Marino pushed further up the field, and him playing kind of dovetailing with Trossard, if you like, both of them playing kind of as a centre forward and one off one another. All of those things combined in order to help Arsenal win that game. And, I would like to add, and I think this is a really important point that Patrick raises here. He says, I actually feel sorry for Marino. He's being subjected to criticism because he's a stubborn manager, insisting on playing him as a position where 2 or 3 players in a squad can do it better. This is a perfect comment. Anyone pointing the finger at Marino, you're wrong. And to be blunt, it's lazy. It's lazy analysis to point the finger at Marino, because that's not where the finger should be pointed. The finger should be pointed at his selection, but the finger should not be pointed at Marino. Marino is a good player. Marino is more than a good player. I think Marino is a very good player and a valuable piece of this squad. However, it doesn't matter if you have a really valuable, really important piece of the machine. If you put that valuable piece of the machine in the wrong place with other wrong parts, or not necessarily wrong parts, but with parts that don't complement it in the right way, the machine is not going to run as efficiently. It is going to face problems and challenges that it may not be able to deal with because it lacks the required part, like Eze, for instance. That, for me, is the big thing. And I think that we absolutely had to start Eze in this game. And the fact that we didn't, I think, meant that we wasted about 45 minutes of this match, which is a real shame. Now, you don't want to waste your time. Imagine being abroad, let's say, sitting on your phone and being like, I can't find the highlight. Why can't I find the highlights? I want to watch the highlights of the Arsenal City game. I want to see why Arteta picked this team. And I can't see them. Oh, wait. I'm location locked. I can't. I'm in a different country. I need to hop back to the UK, but it's going to take forever. I'm going to have to catch a flight. I'm going to have to queue up. I'm going to have to check in my bags. I'm going to have the flight. I'm going to have to get back home. Oh, wait. No. You're not going to have to do that, because all you need to do is go on NordVPN and change your location. Like that. And all of a sudden, I've got my highlights. I've got the video that I wanted to watch. I've got the video that I wanted to see. And I've got that video to be able to watch Gabriel Martinelli's lovely little chip over Gianluigi Donnarumma. Not an easy feat, by the way. He's huge, as Guardiola says. Massive thank you, as always, for Nord to support the channel, even through the rough times, making segues even harder to do when the mood is so low. But, of course, if you are wanting, of course, a VPN service, then Nord is really the only way to go. You can get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or a 2 year plan and 4 months extra thrown in free by going to nordvpn.com/Gooner and get yourself that significant discount off a 1 or a 2 year plan. Right, let's go to part 2. Your questions, your thoughts, and more right after this. Here we go. Right, this is, of course, part 2 of today's show. I'm going to chuck the StreamYard link. I've got a day off today, but I am going to be ruthless with it, by the way. I don't have time for messing about, and I would like to enjoy my day off, but I am going to throw it into the chat box. Of course, if you'd like to phone in and give your thoughts on yesterday's game, we often do these after defeats. But you have to be over the age of 18. You need a webcam, of course, and a quiet place to record. I'm not going to chuck you on the show if you happen to be outside, or if you look under the age of 18, of course, as well. Keep it clean, keep it respectful, as always. But if you'd like to phone in, now is your chance to do so. Of course, it is indeed, as always, an opportunity to hear from listeners and to get their thoughts as well. N16 says, why on earth did Arteta play Saliba over Mosquera? Saliba match fit just wasn't up to speed. No, I don't think Saliba had a bad game at all, to be honest. I didn't see that as a problem. I wouldn't be pointing to that myself. Joseph says, if you wanted to play Merino, it would have been better to start him at centre forward. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, if you were going to play Merino, he should have played up front instead of Gyökeres, not in the midfield alongside Rice and alongside Zubamendi. Vagan says the team showed a lot of second place mentality, celebrating the equaliser. I have no time for people like that. Imagine saying to people you can't celebrate an equaliser. What's wrong, honestly? Amira says Arteta could have set up the team better, but it wasn't a bad lineup. The players need to take some blame too. They play so slow at times and not decisive enough. Our chances come when they move the ball quicker. Sniper Scope says, come on, Tom, stop glazing. Merino isn't a top 6 midfielder. He's been way, way below average in midfield. I mean, only when he's been put in midfield alongside others, for me personally, that he shouldn't have been. I personally think that he's not top 6 and top 6 midfielders in the world. No, but certainly he's good enough to be playing for Arsenal. Mark says Martinelli has twice punished a high defensive line, but running in behind them from the centre, Gyökeres' best work is in the box. It's also running in behind, but we haven't created enough of those opportunities for him. Aris says, my criticism when it's a bit flat, why not at least try a small tweak within the same midfield? Say Rice as the right centre mid, Merino as the left centre mid, at least gives a bit of verticality for the Gyökeres runs in behind. I think that's probably fair. Papoose says, Stillman made a very astute observation that the Merino selection wasn't bad, but if you concede early, then the selection and the tactics are blown up. Do you agree? I don't. I think the Merino selection was not the right choice for this game. And I think, yes, it's fair to point out that the goal from City did harm Arsenal. But if you're going into a game unprepared that potentially your opponent, as good as Manchester City, can score within the first 10 minutes, then you've not done a good enough preparation, in my opinion. Well, let's bring D into the conversation, shall we? D, how you doing, my friend? You good, you well? Take yourself off mute and I'll be able to hear you. Have you got that mute button? There you go. Oh, I can't hear you. That might be a me problem, to be fair. Give me a second. Let's just see if it's a me problem, not a you problem. Chat box, let me know if you can hear D, because it could be me at this point. Sometimes StreamYard does mug me off. It might be D. It might be me. I'm not 100% sure.
I can't hear you, buddy.
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It was a you problem, turns out. Oh, I think maybe D.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me, D? Can you hear me? I don't think D can hear me. Let's go to Luke. How you doing, Luke? You good, you well?
Hey, Tom. Yeah, I'm doing well. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with things. I didn't know if you wanted only people to disagree, but like...
Oh, no, man. Just phone in with your point. Talk to me.
Awesome. So I think Kai Havertz had the same issue where people weren't finding him, the first few months of him playing. So I think like that's part of like Gyökeres' issue as well, is like we're not looking for him because we're told not to, or he's just not being seen with these runs. I mean, Calafiori seemed to have found him a few times, So I think like if we give him time, I understand that we as a fan base don't want to give people time. I was a little worried about the 3 defensive midfielders. This lineup, I've kind of felt like we're at home. After a 5-1 victory against City last year, I felt like we could have been a little more, mentality monsters and say like we can go after this game and win something instead of like setting up for a 0-0 draw for the first half and then beating them in the second.
No, I think that's fair. I wouldn't characterize Merino as a defensive midfielder, but I understand the kind of the context of what you're saying. I think I think for me, it's just about the conservative nature of which Arteta has kind of chosen. You know, I kind of theorized around. I theorized why he's done it. Like I know why he's doing it in these games, and I think it has much to do with, of course, the start of the season that we've been given. But he needs to be braver. He needs to be more proactive. He needs to pick Eze. He needs to pick Martinelli. He needs to pick Waneri. You know, he needs to be, in my opinion, to win a league, you need to take the handbrake off. And it's, I think, fair that fans are going to have growing concerns, Luke, that he isn't going to be the guy to take Arsenal over the line, because in these moments, these touch points, if you like, he's not delivering in the moment where we need him to deliver.
For sure. And I am worried about that too, and I like Arteta, so like it's fair. And like I think for me it's like, his setup of like a creative midfielder of like Odegaard, or like let's say Eze, and the holding midfield of Zubamendi or Partey, and then Declan Rice has worked for him for so long. Like why not stick with that? Especially buying Eze for what, 60, 70 mil?
You've bought a £70 million attacking midfielder and you play against Manchester City and you start Marino. I mean, that's an indictment of your team selection. There's no other way to put it. No matter how early in the season, no matter who the opponent is, and also, who is it that basically took Crystal Palace to the FA Cup victory against Manchester City?
It might be that signing, and I'm not sure.
It might have been Eze, right? So,
and then I guess the last thing I want to say is I think Madueke is finding the same issue that Saka was having. Is Saka will beat your defender, bring him to the byline, cross it, and then nobody's there. I think that happened a few times with Nani. Obviously, it happens every time with Saka. It's just it's tough. I mean, I get it. Kai's usually more combative in the air. Marino can be combative in the air. So, and I know we talked about, Gyökeres not necessarily being the heading monster that we were expecting, but.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Luke. Well, a pleasure to speak with you, mate, and thank you for calling in, pal.
Take care, Tom.
Take care. Well, let's see if we can get D back in the conversation, see if he's sorted out the tech issues. D, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Lovely stuff.
There we go. Wicked.
Talk to me, mate. Talk to me.
I just think it was just a sort of a very defensive, conservative. As you mentioned it before about being conservative, the approach that Arteta's got there. I mean, he just doesn't seem to be learning from the mistakes. I think from some of the mistakes and the way he's setting up this team, and it's a shame because he's got all the players there. He's got all the firepower. I don't know. Is it stubbornness? He doesn't seem to want to admit when he's wrong, but then he goes on at half time and does it in his actions. And then when he's in a press conference, he's got this brick wall up again. He just doesn't want to. I don't, for me,
press conferences. Is it simple as that? Is it a case of what we hear from him in press conferences is just not him? I
think there is an element of him playing a little bit of maybe a bit of game of chess in the press conferences. He doesn't want to give too much away. He doesn't want to give too much of his actual thoughts away because it could be a weakness. It could be used against him. So I think there's an element of that. However, I think he has a service to his fans to be sort of to show some sort of not remorse, but sort of to sort of show something show something to his fan base because he's alienating people. And I think to have a player like Eze come in and you're not playing him, we haven't lost when Eze started. So do you know what I mean? So why is he not? And I know he's not the best. Well, he's not best on the left. He's surely best in the camp, but he does a job on the left. And actually, I think he's our best option on the left. Martinelli coming on in the last 30, 25 minutes is a cheat code against tired legs. So keep doing that. It's working. But then don't go starting him again because you're going to revert him back to being a left wing back again. So then you're going to build him up that he's doing all this great stuff off the bench. And then you're going to stick him back at left wing back, Trossard.
Because if you're Martinelli and you're going, I'm coming off the bench and I'm scoring, I come off the bench and score again, you're still keeping him on the bench. Is there an argument that that's then going to kind of undermine his confidence in some ways if you don't?
Well, absolutely. It'll undermine his confidence just the way that it's undermining Gyökeres' confidence. I watched the game yesterday. I watch every game, and I watched yesterday. There was about 7 or 8 times where Gyökeres has spun the defender, made a wicked run through the middle, and he's not being fouled. The ball's going backwards, and within 2 passes, it's back at Ryan's feet. If I'm Gyökeres, I'm sitting there going, what do I need to do to get a pass? You know what I mean? It's like he needs. And when we saw Eze actually in the last minute of the game flick the ball over the top for Martinelli. That's what Gyökeres has been crying for all game. Do you know what I mean? He wants the balls over the top or balls through, and he wants to be found, and he's making the runs, but he's not getting them. So, the backward passing, going back to Raya's feet all the time. I've never seen a goalkeeper with the ball at his feet more, and it's really frustrating. The crowd were going mental. Play it forward, play it forward.
I was doing the same thing. I was literally in the press box, and I'm not meant to be the fan in the press box. But, I'm sitting there going, I've got a guy who like checks people in on the desk at Arsenal next to me, and I'm sitting there going, pass it forward, just pass it forward.
Funny enough, that's why you get the goals. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't score a goal if the ball's at your keeper's feet. It's not your striker's feet. Do you know what I mean? So how are you getting, and it's frustrating. I mean, I think with the Marino thing, I like Marino, good player, solid player, and you know what? He has a job to do in this team. He just doesn't have the job to do that Arteta's given him to do. You can't put he's not a creative player. He can finish, yes, and he can build play, and he can often be the pass before the assist in a lot of situations, but he's not creative. And to put him in the 10, you're nullifying our attack, in that sense. He can finish, play him alongside someone in the comments earlier made a point of saying that he plays alongside Pedri in the Spain team, who's one of the best creative midfielders in the world. Absolutely correct. That's why he gets goals. That's why he does that, because he's found, So, I think, is it Arteta sees him in Marino like Southgate saw himself in Maguire? The amount of times he used to play Maguire, and I was like, he never lets England down. Well, he kind of does. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't get it. It's just frustrating because we've got all the.
Here then, D? So what? Because it's really.
I'm not Arteta. I'm not Arteta. So the question is, where does Arteta go from here? And Arteta, no one knows, because it depends. It depends who who he wants to make a point to. It's almost I can't help but feel there's an element. It looks as though, and I'm sure it's not the case, but it's almost like he wants to sabotage Gyökeres because he was a better signing.
I think that's nuts.
Do you know what I mean?
To be honest.
I know it's but it makes you feel that way. Do you know what I mean? It makes you feel that way.
I get it.
I'm not saying that is the case, by the way, but
I think Arsenal sends people insane. I feel it, because we all end up having these mad conspiracy theories about
Mad. I know.
It doesn't benefit him in any way to sabotage Gyökeres, but I get why people feel it, obviously.
Yeah. It's obviously tongue in cheek, but it's just the case of I don't understand. Trossard, for me, when he came in again, like when we first started him, great, off the bench, but he's not a starting player. And actually what I see is he's becoming more and more he's quite a greedy player. Like, I've seen him a few times. The pass is on. He doesn't look up to the pass. He wants to go himself. And sometimes he does things that are great. So you kind of think, oh yeah, for a minute, and then you see him do something else, and so it's a frustrating. But I'm not. It's just a bit. It's a bit frustrating for us fans to watch.
I think we're all frustrated. It's the reality of being a team that are chasing a title. Is that as soon as you drop points, I've only done, of course, in these 2 games so far against arguably our 2 title runs, which makes it frustrating. But for me, it wasn't these games why Arsenal did win the league in the last 2 seasons. No. Arsenal in the last 2 seasons didn't win the league because they weren't beating enough of the teams that they had to beat to go. Absolutely. So far this season, in those games, the sign has been obviously very positive. We've scored 8 goals in 2 of those games. So we've got to hope that now we've got kind of this run after Newcastle. If we can go to Newcastle and win, and we manage to pick ourselves up, 13 points from 18 games. 13 from a possible 18 in a very difficult start in the first 6 games. I think that's not necessarily as bad as what people might make out. In fact, if Arsenal manage to go and beat Newcastle, Arsenal will be +2 in net points from what they were from last season. So it's still a big if, and we've still got to go and do it. And certainly if he goes and starts Marino, Rice and Zubimendi, I'm going to feel a lot less confident about winning that game. And I sincerely hope that he doesn't. But I guess we're going to have to wait. D, it's been a pleasure to chat with you and put a face to the name. I'm only jumping off because I've got loads of people to come on.
Yeah, sure. No worries. I'll catch up again soon, I'm sure. 100%. All right. Yeah, nice to speak to you, Tom. All right, take care.
Nice to put a face to the name.
All right, man.
Lots of you in the chat box liking a lot of what D said there. Good to see. We've got Bay up next. How you doing, Bay? You good? You well? Take yourself off mute, pal. There we go.
Good morning, Tom. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not bad, man. How are you?
I'm stressed this morning, as per usual, bro. Once again, listen,
Yeah.
we're back again. As you said, last time I was on here was when the Liverpool game.
Yeah.
And the same lineup, the same midfield. And you know what? I went into that game with confidence. I went into that game thinking, yeah, we can do this.
Yeah.
Before I saw the lineup, of course. Same thing happened today. I mean, yesterday night or whatever afternoon, whatever time of day you want to look at it. When the lineup came out, I'm having a look at the midfield. Same thing. No creativity. I said, why would this guy do this? Why would Arteta do this again? And one thing I've noticed about Arteta is he loves to do things in threes. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but me personally, I feel like Arteta tries things 3 times. If it doesn't work, then he decides to change it. He never changes it on the second occasion if it doesn't work the first time. He's hell-bent on doing things his way, or just hell-bent on, I don't know, annoying the fans, riling them up, because he knows no one wants Moreno and CAM. He knows he has 2 center attacking mids, or 3 that could possibly play in Moreno's possession, or where he put Moreno, should I say. And then we go into attack and we look at Trossard up front. I'm thinking, why would you reward Trossard? What has Trossard done? Yeah, he scored a goal the last game. But are we being for real? Trossard is who we're starting in this game.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Gyökeres, pass him the ball. Look, tell the players. Look, there was an interview with the United players a few years back. I remember I watched it. And one of the United players was like, oh, Ferguson, when United took Van Persie from Arsenal and he went to Manchester United. And the United players were like, Ferguson told him to pass Van Persie the ball. Don't do anything else. Pass Van Persie the ball.
Yeah.
Bro, pass Gyökeres the ball. Come on. We have 97 goals last year. Which, we're seeing, like you stated already, even D said, countless times he's trying to make that run. Countless times. And exactly in your dialogue at the start, you said, oh, the 70th minute. It was the 73rd minute. I remember. Just like you, literally. And it's funny because when you said that, I was like, oh my God, I wasn't the only one who noticed.
Yeah, no, it stuck in my head. That pass was played through, and I said to Phil from PA, I said, that's the first time we've played a pass to him in behind all game. Like
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Gyökeres is not for me the level of Van Persie. He's not the level of he's not for me a elite level striker. And I don't think there was an elite level striker on the market, but we absolutely had to get in a striker. And he is the top scorer of the last 2 seasons in Europe's higher leagues, not obviously the top 5, but certainly the higher leagues in the Portuguese league is. But and I do think that there are mitigating circumstances around Gyökeres' start to the season being the schedule that we've had and the types of games that we're playing. And I don't think it's any surprise that he's got 3 goals in 2 games against the 2 sides further down the table in the Premier League in our home matches. And that our struggles with him have come against United away, Liverpool away, and City at home. So I thought against Athletic Club he was good. And we did play a few good balls in behind for him. He could have actually got 1 or 2 goals in those games. But the concerns that I did have, Bay, about Gyökeres when we signed him are materializing in front of me. Like we are seeing the shortcomings in his game realized in front of us, which are first touch, which are a style which leans on needing to play the ball in behind or getting those cutbacks into those tight spaces where he can basically have a one-touch shot at goal. Those moments we haven't created loads of at all, not just this season or last season, but at all in the last 5 seasons. That's not how we play. So can you see Arsenal adapting to him? Because that's what Arsenal needs. And I do think if Kai Havertz was available, we wouldn't be having as many issues as we're having, because he would stylistically be fitter and better for these types of games. But we don't have him, so we need to respond and we need to adapt to Gyökeres better and quicker. But can you see that happening?
Right. Can I see that happening? I've always been a believe the manager sort of guy. I believe in the manager. It depends on, your track record, of course. It took me a while for me to say Wenger out. Now, with Arteta, I was okay with the progress he's made us up until now. Now, this season, for me, it's all guns blazing. We have to win a trophy. Premier League and all the Champions League, either one, right?
Yeah.
Do I think we're gonna change style? No, I don't.
No.
I actually don't. Nothing has shown me this season. I mean, I know it's only 5 games, but nothing has shown me this season that Arteta is willing to change style. And something that you said if Havertz was fit, you believe Havertz would have probably started one of those games.
Yeah, probably all of them.
I totally agree. I absolutely agree. Like, because Arteta refuses to change. It's his way or the highway. Same thing with Eze. Some people were saying, they think Eze was dropped because I don't know if you saw the clip of Arteta shouting at Eze to go onto the wing.
Yeah, I think maybe people have read a little bit too much into that. But...
Maybe. Yeah. But at the same time, it shows it. He also went into the press conference to complain about Eze the first game. Remember that?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So look, there are little things that you just have to put together. It's like, bro, did he really want Eze? And
I think he did. Yeah, I don't think anyone signs for Arsenal unless he wants them. It just doesn't happen.
No. Obviously, yeah, he has to give the go ahead. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's be for real. He's not going to use them if he doesn't. He's not going to use the player if he didn't want the player. People like Lokonga, people like Vieira, like there are loads of examples of players that we have signed. The guy's never going to use. Now, Eze is a different ball game. He's one of the best attackers in the Premier League, as far as I'm concerned, especially for Crystal Palace and at that level, and as a 10. Now, we signed him with the amount of money that we spent this summer, so he has to use these players. Now, he also came out in before the game in the press conference talking about squad depth, and this is the exact reason as to why he chose to start certain players like Moreno and Trossard. Yeah. Okay, I understand squad depth, which is what we've been lacking for the last 5 years. Bro, but do you think this is the time to now use the squad depth that haven't really... It's like he loves to go backwards. It doesn't make any sense to me. I find it hard to try and understand his mindset.
I see where I spent the last however long trying to understand kind of where Arteta does, to the point where I do think I understand like where he is in these types of games. Because for me, in these types of games, he's petrified of losing them. I think he's absolutely petrified of losing these games. And I think he's looked at previous seasons. You think about when we were 2 points behind Man City when we lost the title. And he's looking at kind of how can I get those marginal gains to be able to turn over those 2 points. And last season's a bit of an anomaly because of all the injuries that we had. But there were still signs in that season where we wouldn't take the initiative, where we'd be too conservative, where we wouldn't go for it. And this season when he's bad, when you've been backed with 300 million quid's worth of players, there isn't an excuse to not go for it in big games and not go to Anfield and not go into this game with players like Eze available to you, or players like Winery, who's still very talented as well, we know can be a threat, scored in this specific fixture last season, and not use them more proficiently and more proactively. And that is where I think Arteta's sword is, where he could fall, is that if Arteta is to go one day from Arsenal without being successful, and by that I mean not having won one of the major trophies of the big two. There's more major trophies than just those two, but particularly those two. If Arteta doesn't win either of those trophies, it won't be because he's not a good manager, or he's not a good coach, or he can't improve players, or he's not tactically proficient. The reason why Arteta won't win any trophies, and at the end of his time with it, if that scenario was to come to pass, will be because he wasn't brave enough and he wasn't risk-averse enough. Sorry, not risky. He wasn't risky enough in those games. He was too risk-averse in the moment where it really mattered. If he fails, it will be because of that, not because of anything else for me.
Now, I totally agree with that. Now, I think defense wins championships. They say that a lot in NBA and American sport, all of that stuff. Defense wins championships, right? And I agree with that. We need a strong defense to move forward. So, no problem with Arteta making our defense one of the best defensive forces in Europe for the last 3 seasons, right? No issue. But now it's time to evolve, right? It's now time to take it to a next level. And it's time to show the fans that, yes, I want to win. I want to field an attacking team. Yeah. Oh, if it looks like things are going bad, all right, maybe we can change it and put on a defensive midfielder like Moreno or centre midfielder, whatever position you want to label him as. So it's the like I said last time, it's the optics and it's the willingness to try and win the game. He doesn't try to win the game. He prefers to not lose the game, which it's not the way to win a trophy. Like, bro, like, he's been making the same mistakes for the last 3 seasons. Okay, yeah, you stated the reasons why we haven't won is because we're not winning against the lower table teams.
Yeah.
And, you know, we didn't really lose against any of the top 6 over the last few years.
Yeah.
Now, this season, the lower leagues, we've smashed them. I mean, lower teams, we've smashed them.
Annihilate
the
them,
top teams, we can't seem to find an attacking, I don't know, spark.
Yeah.
like what's going on?
Well, you look at the way that Liverpool, and not just under Arne Slot, but under Jurgen Klopp as well, it's just a Liverpool way of the style that they play. They just gun for teams. Like that Burnley game where Burnley went down to 10 men. Like there was only one team that was going to win that game, you know. Yeah. And even the Newcastle game, where Newcastle, obviously, I think personally, were very tactically naive when they went down to 10. They did a lot of good work to get back to 2-2. But as soon as they got that second goal, they should have hunkered down with 10 men, absorbed the pressure, steal the point off Liverpool. But they didn't. Yeah. They tried to go and win it against the champions with 10 men, which was so stupid, and it ended up costing them. But from an Arsenal point of view, they go into those games knowing, like the Nottingham Forest, the Leeds of this world, Arteta knows if he dominates those teams in terms of possession and chance creation, he's going to win those matches. He knows that. But in his mind, that translates to the games against Liverpool and against City. And he believes that if he can dominate the game for enough time in those fixtures, that's his best chance of getting a positive result from those games. And that approach to those games has worked in the past because we've won games. You know, I think about the times we've battered Chelsea or even battered Manchester City, of course, last season as well.
But we weren't defensive. We never fielded a defensive team.
We didn't field a defensive team. But what I think is that he also has, which we haven't really touched upon, is that there are kind of linchpins in his squad that if he doesn't have, he struggles with. And so if he doesn't have Ødegaard, as a really good point, if he lacks Ødegaard, it's almost like he's not sure what to do, but honestly, other than to revert to that the kind of more consolidated midfield that he's got. Indeed. And he's not willing to kind of throw Eze in or throw Wineri in those big games when he should do. He should throw them into those games. But for some reason, there's kind of this mental block that he just can't quite do it. Yeah. And that could cost him. Last point on this, mate, before we move on.
No worries. I do think it will cost him in the future. I don't know if we win a trophy this season. The way we started it this year, or started this season, losing, I don't know, we dropped 4 points already, 5 points.
Against Liverpool and City,
So 4 points, but then I think Liverpool are 5 points above us, right?
Yes, we've dropped 5 points against Liverpool and City.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, terrible. This is terrible. This doesn't show. This doesn't show the belief that we're actually going to like. This is where we need to be showing. You know, this is where we need to be making a statement. This is the season where we need to be making a statement, especially with the signings we've made. So, not making a statement in your first 5 games doesn't necessarily instill confidence in the fans. Or in me, anyways, in regards to the way we've been performing over the previous seasons. Now, does that mean we sign more players in January who are missing? God knows.
It's not about players anymore. It's not about players. Like it can't be about players. We can't spend 300 million on 8 players that all add quality to this squad and then be like, we need to sign X player. He's got a clinical finisher. He's got 2 really good right wingers that create problems for any team they face. He's got Ødegaard, and if he's not got Ødegaard, he's got, for me, a world-class player in Eze, who at the moment, of course, is still bedding in and
more like Moreno. More like Moreno.
He's got Moreno, who I rate as a player and think can be a really positive impact, and has shown that. He's shown that this guy playing in playing bloody centre forward can score against Real Madrid of all teams. This guy is not a bad player. I will not have people slandering Moreno the player. I'm happy to have conversations about how you misuse him in the midfield alongside other defensive midfield players, but he isn't a bad player, and he is a decent player and adds value to this squad. He's got Declan Rice in his midfield. He's got, for me, behind Rodri, the best 6 in the league now in Martin Zubimendi. He's got the best defensive unit in the world And he's got, for me, options on the left still that are threatening. Yes, I think we'd like to have seen maybe a Rodrigo, etc., come in, whatever. But Martinelli's showing, this season, the goals that he can score. We've seen Trossard obviously come off in the Athletic Club game and score. We know Eze can also potentially play that. We know Madueke potentially can play there as well. And he's still got players like Saka to now come back, and Havertz potentially to come back, and Jesus one day to come back. And he's got players like Hincapié now that he needs to use as well, who's more of a traditional left-sided fullback when he plays in that position and can also play as a left centre-half as well. Yep. He's got resources, back. Like,
You're right. I agree.
We've got to see change.
I believe we have the resources as well. And that's what frustrates me. It's the belief that kills you. I don't think it's the fact that I'm sitting here with no belief thinking we can't do anything.
Yeah.
I fully believe we can do something this season. Or I believed we can do something this season.
Yeah.
But the way it's going, first 5 games, I'm not going to lie to you. Out of the first 8 games, I decide, when the season starts, I usually decide from the first 8 games what it looks like.
Yeah.
First 5 games, we've lost and drawn already. That's not ideal for a championship winning team.
Yeah.
It should be at minimum 1 draw in 8 games.
Yeah. Which might happen. Yeah. Ironically, that might happen, with Arsenal, because it might be that we only draw that game against City. We only lose that game against Liverpool. And then the other 6 games, we win all of them. We are on 18 points.
But remember, we still have bogey teams like Newcastle. People forget about Newcastle slapping us last season, losing to Aston Villa.
For me, they're the games, though, babe. They're the games which win or lose Arsenal the title. Liverpool came to Arsenal last season. Liverpool won the league, didn't beat Arsenal in either of the 2 times they faced us. Manchester City won the league the season before, lost to Arsenal at the Emirates, and drew against Arsenal at the Etihad. Both of the last 2 teams that have played Arsenal in the last 2 years, have not beaten them when they won the league. For me, those games are mini contests in the league between those 2 sides. But ultimately, whoever wins the league, it's down to how they performed against all the other 17 teams outside of City and Liverpool. That's how you win the league. It's how you perform against all those others. And that's why it's obviously very early in the season to be having bigger, broader conversations about the manager's future. But what we can have, and what we are doing, Bay, is having a conversation about whether we feel that we're seeing enough that shows us that with the resources available to him, that he's going to do enough. Now, again, it's very difficult to do in these first 5 games because we have such a small sample size. But what we know from this point is that against these bigger teams, he is being too conservative for me to take advantage of potentially getting the extra points he could have got. Equally, we are battering the teams that we should beat in the Forest and the Leeds of this world. The United game's a little bit of an anomaly because it's the first game of the season away at Old Trafford. It's a very difficult game to kind of even look into with the new signings and all that. But we won that game, and that was really important to do that, which was a bit of a 3-point bonus and a 2-point net gain on the previous season. So Newcastle's going to be very interesting because Newcastle was the first time I think this season, Bay, we're playing against a team where we have a real measure of the difference from us last season compared to this season. So that's a real litmus test, I think, for this team.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that, Tom. Thank you very much, man.
Bay, thank you. Always a pleasure, my friend. Speak to you soon.
Indeed.
Thanks, man. Lovely stuff. Daniel is up next. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah. You look like you haven't had much sleep, mate.
No, well, don't. Well, I'll tell you later. You've
been up all night fretting. You can talk to me later about that if you want.
No, I'll tell you later.
Yeah, for sure, man. Tell me about Arsenal, though. What's I saw you gesticulating as through Bay's conversation with me. So tell me.
Yeah, I agreed with pretty much what he said. Like, we were too timid yesterday, and what I would have loved to have seen is like change up the set pieces a bit, because like Donnarumma is an absolute unit of a goalkeeper. Like he's 6'8", isn't he? Something like that.
6'5". I don't think he's actually 6'8". I think he's 6'5".
Well,
but he always comes across way bigger than he actually is. Yeah. Yeah, 6'5". Trafford's taller than Donnarumma, believe it or not.
but yeah, like, and the corners just weren't working yesterday.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things. Yeah, I was feeling like meh towards before the lineup.
Yeah.
And then I saw the lineup, and I just went draw.
Yeah, I was very similar to you. I saw the midfield and I was like, I don't know if we're going to win this anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I feel that we're not using Gyökeres properly.
What would you like to see us do differently to get more from him?
Make him more the focal point.
Okay.
Like, just feed him the ball.
Yeah.
As often as we can. Like, we waste, like, in my mind yesterday, we wasted 2 subs.
Yeah.
Because we started with the wrong team.
Yeah.
We should have started with...
That's a really good point.
Eze.
Yeah.
And also a little bit of a left wing kind of change.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have started Saliba yesterday. I would have started Mascara because he was like in form, playing well in games against Man U and Liverpool, and I feel that he could have done a good job yesterday, and I think we should have maybe played Miles Lewis Kelly.
Yeah.
Because Calafiori's running on fumes at this point.
Yeah.
I feel. And yesterday, yeah, we wasted the whole first half, and I and even though we're 5 games into the league season, but I don't see us winning a trophy. And
yeah, the mood is low, Dan. I there's no doubt about that. I do think it's situational. I do think it's absolutely situational based upon these games that we've had. What I would say for those people that are in a similar position to you and feel that at the moment you don't feel like we're going to win anything based upon these 2 games is, as I said to Bay, the last times that the team that have won the league came to Arsenal, they didn't win either of those games. You know, Liverpool didn't beat Arsenal once last season. Man City didn't beat Arsenal once the season before that. And I don't think that these are the games that will define whether or not Arsenal will win the league for me.
Oh, yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah, like I beat 17 other teams. But it's where these games where you can't be you can't be conservative or like timid. Like Arteta needs to be braver if he wants to win these games. Like I want to go let's have it. Let's go in for a scrap. Like basically.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, Dan. I'm with you. I'm just saying. The only reason I'm in this call is because
that's fine.
I have made the cardinal sin and forgotten I was meant to be on somebody else's show at 9 o'clock. So I'm still going to go a little bit longer with a couple of calls, but I'm going to try and get a couple of people on, Dan. But I appreciate your patience and waiting.
Fine. Cheers.
Thank you, pal. Always a pleasure. Drop me a message whenever you want, mate. Lovely stuff. Yeah, as I said, I'm meant to be on with Yambele a little bit in a bit, and I'll be over there. I'm just gonna the podcast, of course, for you to check out is going to be the Red Lines and Half Spaces, which you can, of course, check out on YouTube as well. I'm going to be on with those guys, but I have managed to push us back just to past, so I can get 2 quick. I think maybe 2 if I'm lucky. Isowa very quickly going to get you on. Try and get King. Try and get Oz if we can, maybe. But apologies if we don't squeeze everybody on. How you doing, man? You good? You well?
I'm good, Tom. How are you? Everything well?
Outside of football, I'm all good, man. I'm all good.
Great. Nice to hear that.
Yes, of course, of course. Thanks, man.
Of course. Yeah. So, what are we talking about, Tom?
Well, I guess I'll ask you a question. Because it kind of feeds on what I just spoke to Dan about. I don't think these 2 games against Liverpool and City will be the reason why Arsenal do or don't win the league. I think that we have seen, obviously, in those games against Forest and Leeds with the 8 goals that we scored. And I think also next week against Newcastle, which is a really big net result from last season if we can get a win, Those are the games that will tell us if this team are going to win the league or not. But still right to have concerns about how Arteta is approaching these specific things.
You ruined my bit, Tom. I was about to praise Arteta and say he has my undying loyalty. He's Super Mikel Arteta. You can see the caption down.
You can still say that if you want.
You ruined my bit.
Sorry,
all right. It's okay, man. It's all good. No, Arteta he has my undying loyalty, Tom. He will lead us to a
undying. Wow. I don't know if I go that far.
He has my loyalty till the end. It is Mikel Arteta who got us to this situation.
Yeah.
And he's the one who's gonna lift us from our misery and frustrations, from the doldrums of our misery. He's the one who's gonna take us further. He's the one who's gonna finally get us the Champions League and the Premier League.
Yeah.
After how many years? Arteta is the one. Who can you name me a manager that would have done the amount of work that he has done in this past 6 years?
I don't think there is another example. No, I don't.
Exactly, Tom. So we're in the same wavelength. We get each other. So even
this feels very different, ISO, to previous chats we've had.
Arteta, when we didn't have Arteta, where were we as a club? Look at the caliber of players we signed.
Yeah.
So basically saying, like, people that are criticizing him or like telling him that he should not be doing the tactics, no, he has full authority to do whatever he wants. I could give him a contract to extend him for 5+ years. I don't care. Really? It's about the journey, not the destination.
I feel like I'm sensing satire. that's what I feel like.
He can do no wrong in my eyes, Tom. Tom, he can do no wrong in my eyes.
Tell me what you really think.
What Tom used to be a teacher. If a student came to you and told you that this is what he feels, this is what I truly feel, Tom. This is what is in my heart.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so
that's fine. I mean, you just remember you're on camera to like thousands of people. Yeah, if this is what you want your face to be attached to, man, that's fine.
If I can remember one thing from the once great and the still great Tom, that you can change your opinion anytime. Yes.
Yeah.
No. Honestly saying, let me just wrap it up because I know you have other people and you have another show. We will see. We'll judge Arteta when it's time to judge Arteta. So far. Yeah. I thought the reporter that was asking the question, I think we clarified it earlier in the show, the question about when he was trying to say that. I thought it was you, actually.
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was me. Sophie thought it was me last night as well. Loads of people have been saying, thanks for asking that. It wasn't me. It was Jordan Davis from The Sun.
He had this. I don't know what's wrong with the tech issues surrounding the sound mixing in the press conferences.
Yeah,
they need to figure it out. Haters or other people that are designing the sound mixing there. Anyway, I don't know. So far, we have had Manchester United. Can I call them a top 6 team? They had a square off on the bottom of the league with Chelsea a couple of days ago. You can say it's Manchester. But we had to go to OT. You had Liverpool and you had Manchester City, and then we have Newcastle. So I don't know. Comparing it to other seasons, I don't know if we had this much of a tough start in the first few weeks of the Premier League season. So if you're gonna compare, I don't know. There's like comparison to what to compare it to, but right now Arteta, he has all the ingredients to do whatever. The ingredients is there. There's no excuses of we had injuries. He has like 2 squads. I think somebody said that our second squad can be a mid-table team right now. Our second squad.
I don't think it'll be a mid-table. I think our second squad would be competing for Champions League qualification. I have absolutely no doubt about that. That 11,
like a full second squad.
If that 11 stayed fit all season, there's no doubt in my mind that it can compete for the top 4. Like if we're talking about Kepa, White, Mosquera, Hincapié, Lewis Skelly, Norgard, Marino, Eze, and then Trossard, Havertz, Madueke. That team's competing for top 4. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Like,
exactly.
So
everything is laid in front of Arteta. All he has to do is just get out of his head and just take the handbrakes off. So let it fly. This is the season. And I don't know. I don't think so. Arteta will leave at the end of the season if he doesn't get a trophy. He's not gonna leave.
No, I don't think so.
So whoever wants him fired, the people who naysayers, I'm with Arteta until the end. I even proposed to give him 5 more years. No, I said no, it's okay. No. See, Tom, that's all I have to say. I know you have to go.
Thanks,
I'm trying to change the mood of the caller.
No, I love it. I appreciate. I needed that this morning. No, I appreciate you, mate. I appreciate.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a good day,
man. See you later. King's up next. Then we'll finish with Oz if we've got time. King, I'm only going to give you 2 minutes. I'm really sorry that I've got to cut you off quick. So just give me a monologue, man.
No, I understand. I'll go straight on. I think yesterday, as everybody or most of the people have mentioned, for me, Arteta, he got it wrong with the starting 11. I think, especially, I feel like he's contradicted himself because he's talked about when players are in form, you have to pick them. And that was the reason why he picked Mikel Moreno and benched Declan Rice. And I was for that. And I felt like in the first half, there was so much space on City's right-hand side. And Trossard didn't have the pace to trouble Khrushchev or Nunes. He had a lot of space, but he didn't have the pace. And I was surprised that Martinelli came on so late. I was really surprised that he didn't adjust that because we know that Arteta is very good tactically. He's a very good coach. That's not my doubt. My doubt is fear. Does he have too much fear for his own sake? Because when you start the season and you already lost a game and drawn a game and you want to win the league, you're going to put so much pressure on yourself because now the Newcastle game is a must-win, Tom, because if we don't win that, even if we draw away there, it's not good enough. Then we're going to be, and Liverpool win, we're going to be, 8 points from Liverpool? And that's you don't want to.
We lose to Newcastle and they win, it would be 8 points.
Yeah, so it'll be 8 or 7 points if we don't win that game, and that's a lot of points that you want to catch up on. And then it just continue like every game becomes a must-win game, and there's so much pressure where you start to be conservative because you're so afraid of losing. And I don't want us to be in that situation because I truly believe that we have the best team in the league, and I truly believe we have the best squad in the league. And I feel like City and Liverpool have big holes. I don't feel like Liverpool have the squad, but obviously momentum is something that's also important in football. And right now, Liverpool have the momentum. They have the confidence of winning the league last season. They have the momentum of winning every game. They have the momentum of winning games late, and they beat us already. And City are struggling, Chelsea are struggling. So really, they have so much momentum, and that's why I was a bit disappointed that we didn't go all in against City. But I understand you have to cut me off. I'll call in another day. Thanks for having me on, and I'll catch you on the podcast.
Thanks, King. I think you summed it up really well. I agree with a lot of what you said. And yeah, I think particularly the point about kind of the fear in the selection. I think that's key. We'll finish the show with Oz, who's been very patient. How you doing, man? You good? You well?
Hello. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning to you. You listened to a lot of people said. Again, I'm only going to be able to give you 2 minutes.
Okay.
Tell me what you think.
First of all, I want to talk about the defense. I think everyone already said what I want to say, but I want to talk about the defense. Many people say it's Saliba. It's Mosquera should have played.
Sure.
Saliba is not in form. Not in match fitness.
Yeah.
I don't really see it like that. What I see was the goal, the Haaland goal, the first goal. For me, that was Gabriel's fault.
I agree.
When the ball gets to Reinders, Saliba was
he's caught between two players.
He was next to Haaland.
Yeah.
But and Saliba was concentrating on Reinders, and when Haaland runs, Gabriel didn't stick with him. Gabriel just see him, and he see Saliba
I think Haaland's a lot quicker than him. Was the problem? I think it was Gabriel's positioning. Like he was caught too far up the field. He was too emotional in his positioning, and that ended up costing him. So yeah.
But that's what I see. Like I don't know if Gabriel was slower, but I don't really see him like sprinting, like trying to catch up with Haaland. When that run happens. So that was my take on the first goal. And for the lineup, it was quite surprising. We don't see Nwaneri or Eze at the starting lineup. I think that's something that was surprising. But you said in the beginning you have a theory on what happens. My theory is Arteta was too cautious, that he was facing Pep that is trying a new strategy, and we don't really know the full extent of his strategy. So he was trying to be careful. What do you think? What was
I think that you summed it up very well. I think that Pep was absolutely aware of what threat Arsenal, and I think he, as a result, he went for a counter-attacking style. I think that Gabriel was at fault, like you rightly said, and was caught too far up the pitch. And I think that Arteta was way too cautious. So I think you're absolutely spot on us. And I'm sorry to cut you off because I wish I could.
Okay. I know.
But thank you, man.
Thank you.
And I think you were spot on in your analysis. Thank you, mate. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in as well. Sorry that I've got to cut things short. It's my bad. So I'm an idiot and forgot I was on another show this morning. So make sure, of course, I'll make sure to share, of course, all the links to it and everything. Make sure you go and check out the Red Lines and Half Spaces podcast. I'm looking forward to joining you in a little bit. Immediately, in fact. So enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all of our callers as well. And I think hopefully it's been a bit of a therapy session for us all. I will speak to you tomorrow morning, which is going to be a press conference day, believe it or not already, but it's a later press conference. So we'll still have time for a normal show before heading up to Stoke for a cold night on Wednesday in Stoke. Believe it or not, it's actually happened. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy, respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.